Welcome everybody to Carers Week 2025 with Seniorcare by Lottie. Very excited to be here. Like I've been saying, I'm Robin. I'm the one on the left, and I am the content lead at Seniorcare by Lottie. So my job is really to lead all the creation and create digestible content that makes sense. Hopefully, it's understandable and can help you on the path that some of you might be on when it comes to caregiving. And I'm delighted to be joined by Katie Jones, who's one of our care experts. I'm very biased, but Katie is incredibly knowledgeable and wonderful and friendly and just excellent person. So I'm very lucky to have her with me. Katie, do you want to introduce yourself again?
Yes, thank you, Robin. Lovely introduction. Yes, I'm Katie, so I'm one of the care experts here at Seniorcare by Lottie. So I essentially help families and individuals such as yourselves in your search for all things care. So that can range from care homes to home care providers, funding support. We're just here to support you through kind of your whole later living journey.
Absolutely. And they do a cracking job of it. Um, if you hadn't heard of us, I don't know where you've been, but Senior Care is your elder care and later life provider. So anything that comes to later life, you can always come to us, and there's no question too big or too small to talk to us, but we're here to help you all understand, find, and fund care for your loved ones. Um, and this is just a bit about the amazing stuff that Katie does, that I alluded to. We've been supporting families in different organizations since 2021. And this is our humble brag slide. This is just to show you that we are good. Katie is rated 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot. She's amazing. And yeah, we're really proud. And I know Katie's really proud of the work we do helping families, because it is confusing and it can be isolating. And that's what we're here to try and eradicate, that sort of isolation. And we want to give as much guidance and support as possible. So what is Carers Week? That's why we're here. Carers Week is an annual campaign that lasts in June, and we use it as a time to raise awareness, highlight all the challenges, and just celebrate the amazing things caregivers do every single day. Even when they're working a 9 to 5, a lot of people are working a 5 to 9 as well after work. So we're here to sort of shine a spotlight on people that might need support but are maybe too scared to try and find it, but then also celebrate the amazing things that caregivers are also doing. And so that's why we're here. That's exactly what our role is, and that's why we're really excited to put on this webinar today. So we hope you enjoy it. This is how we're going to go through the content. We're going to talk about the working carer and the kind of pressures and challenges they face. Recognizing carers is a huge part of what we do. A lot of people don't consider themselves carers. How we help as Senior Care by Lottie, and how we can help support you, and the kind of information we can give. Getting in touch with us, obviously super important. And if you do have any questions throughout, just drop them into the Q&A section. You should have a Q&A section, hopefully. If not, you can use the chat. But yes, just ask questions throughout and we'll try and cover them at the time. If not, we will have time at the end. So don't worry, just jump in whenever. So section 1, the working carer. We're going to start with a question. So do use the chat function or the Q&A function if the chat one doesn't work, whichever one works, I'm not sure. But the first question is, what percentage of UK employees are currently providing unpaid care? So use the Q&A or the chat one for this and take a guess. And to lead us through is going to be not the full 30 seconds. Just the best bit. Unpaid carers, it was 20%. 20%. Yes, that's quite a lot. I think you agree. A lot of people did get that right, which is good to see. And that is, of course, 1 in 5 people, which is crazy to think. 1 in 5 people currently working are unpaid caregivers. And it's hard to balance, isn't it? That sort of working relationship and that caregiving relationship. The two don't always go hand in hand. And this is how it affects the working caregiver. So there's a lot more absentees. 71% of employees say care disrupted their work in the last month. That's shockingly high. Mental health is obviously a huge impact. 84% of employees with eldercare with an elderly dependent say they feel more stressed at work. That's easy to see why. You're balancing two things at the same time, and that's a lot for anyone to handle, let alone, whatever it may be. Diversity and inclusion, 400%, women are 400% more likely to reduce their hours due to caregiving responsibilities. That's not impossible to, like we already see that a lot with childcare responsibilities, but we also see a huge significant value in elder care. So that's something we want to reduce down as much as possible. And care costs, care is expensive, really, really, really expensive. £50,000 is the average annual amount for care in the UK. I think that's for care homes, I believe. But roughly amount that. It can be more than that, it can be just less, but that's on average what people will be paying per year. And our job is to try and reduce that as much as possible by giving you the right benefits, the better channels to go through to help you fund care better. So that's a bit on the working caregiver. Um, Katie, do you want to talk a bit about the reasons why people need care? Because it's a very broad spectrum, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of wanted to include this slide as, there is no kind of one reason why someone needs care support. Elder care covers a whole range of ages, forms. It's very unique. It's very kind of holistic to the individual. I used to be a home carer myself, and even that was so vast. There would be some people that I'd go to for just some companionship on, a Monday evening, just chat and sit together. Or there'd be people who would need more substantial support, with personal care and dressing and mobility and all the rest of it. So it's very important to kind of understand that it's such a wide spectrum, and it really can cover, as we say, as little as kind of support around the home, but no care kind of giving is little, regardless of what it might be. It's still, you're still caring for someone. It's still a big chunk out of your kind of day and mental kind of capacity caring for someone. So it's so broad.
Yeah, and that companionship can be really important to someone. I think there's a shocking statistic, like there's 6 to 7 million people that are lonely
Mm.
in the UK, and like those are people that don't have anyone to talk to or converse with, or you know seek support with. And so that's just how important companionship can be. Obviously, when you think of care, you think of nursing and things like that, but there's so much more to it. And yeah, that's something that we wanted to raise today for Carers Week. And just about who do we help, Katie, on their journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, senior care is kind of here to support you guys as employees, but also anyone that's important to you. So it could be, a loved one, a friend, a family, a neighbor, anyone who you think would benefit from the service. We're kind of here to support anyone in your kind of little world who might need help. We're here to support you and help in any way that we can. So never feel like you can't reach out to us if it's not you necessarily doing the care. We're more than happy to chat with you about whoever's situation it could be, and see how we can help.
And is it right that if someone did want to reach out on behalf of someone else, they would just have to begin the consultation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you can reach out, as an employee, reach out to us and just say, it's for my neighbor who's actually caring for someone, it's for my friend who, is caring for someone, whoever it may be. They just need to come through you, and then initially, and then we can organize either a call, a video call, an email, whatever it might be with them, and take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. We just want to help as many people as possible on that journey. Um, and of course, if you're working out an organization, a statutory benefit now since 2024 is the Carers Leave Act, which every employer must provide employees up to 1 week's unpaid leave per year. But some organizations are doing incredible things with this leave. They've taken this act and they've doubled down on it. They're providing more leave. Some are providing paid leave. So we really encourage any employee watching today to, talk to your employer, talk to your benefits manager, whoever is in charge of that, and just see what you're entitled to, because that can be a huge relief to a time that is just het up. Of course, is a week's unpaid leave enough? Probably not, but that's what you've got senior care for, which is really good. And that's how we can support within that world as well. Section 2, recognizing carers. Obviously, I think I consider this as a really, really intrinsic part of what we do, because a lot of people, like I said, just don't really consider themselves carers at all, which is surprising considering the amount of caregiving they do day to day. But we're going to start with another question. So use the Q&A tab again, if you will. And the second question is, what percentage of people that have or currently providing care don't consider themselves carers? So, you might think it's a lot, you might think it's not quite that much. Let's see your answers. And to take you through, that's Mr. B. And the answer is, it was D, 73%. That is a lot of people that are currently providing care that don't consider themselves carers. And these are people from maybe years ago. They think of it, and it's easy to know why. People caring for their mum, people caring for their another like paternal figure. They don't consider it care, because they find it rewarding, and of course it is. But I think it's really important to understand that those caregiving duties can be challenging and they can be hard. So that's a lot of people that don't consider themselves carers. But Katie, who can be a carer? I think it's good to address that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of wanted to include this slide, as we know that many people kind of don't speak about their caregiving responsibilities, and this can be, due to pride. They can find it emotional to speak about. So it's likely that many of your colleagues and friends are caregivers for someone, but they just don't, speak about it. And this slide is just kind of an example of how it can be anyone, any walk of life, any stage in their life. They could be caring for someone, and you kind of never know when it might crop up. I spoke to a lady a couple of weeks ago who heard about Senior Care by Lottie, and she was kind of like, oh, this isn't, necessary for me at the moment. And then unfortunately a week later her mum had a stroke, and she reached out to us. So it's kind of to say that, you never know what's going to happen. And yeah, it could be relevant to absolutely anyone.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so good to be sort of aware of the caregivers around you. If you know 1 in 5 people are caregivers, then it's really important to understand that a lot of people you work with are probably providing unpaid care in some form. So a lot of it is down to empathy. Um, and there are a lot of different types of caregivers. That's something we work on a lot, is recognizing the exact different types. We're not going to go through the hundreds of types of caregivers, because that would be several webinars. So we'll just go through 4 key types of caregivers today, but they're all really, really important. And you might recognize some of this, maybe in yourself, maybe in someone you know, but that's exactly why we're here, to just sort of talk about it. So the first type of caregiver is the guilty caregiver. Those who have taken on a caregiving role out of necessity rather than choice. And this happens a lot. And I think Katie speaks to a lot of people daily about this sort of thing happening. So Katie, what sort of advice would you give to these people?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's something that we come across a lot. At a recent senior care event, I spoke to a lot of carers who were they didn't have any siblings. So they kind of felt responsible for taking on that role of caring for mum, dad, or whoever it might be. But we kind of offer the advice of, scheduling in some time each day for micro moments of joy, whether that be going out for a walk, reading a book, just taking some time for yourself. Self-care is so important, and you can only look after someone if you're looking after yourself. So it's really important to kind of take the time to ensure that you are filling up your own cup as well.
Yeah, and I think that 10 minutes can be hard to find at times, can't it? And then you really do need it. You need that time to yourself to recharge a bit, whatever that may be. The next type of care giver is the solo caregiver, caregivers who manage everything alone, either due to lack of family support or by choice. That's what Katie was alluding to just now. Might be you might be an only child. I don't know. You might be the only person that actually is in the area to help, or something like that. So, Katie, what sort of help would you suggest for this category of caregiver?
Yeah, so again, very, very frequent that we come across people who are kind of solo caregivers. Again, only could be you're an only child, or it could be that other members of the family aren't um either able to or willing to kind of support. But we always say, scheduling in some respite. So whether that be someone coming in to support with your loved one throughout the day, some home care, even if it's just for a couple of hours to allow you to kind of go out and have a bit more of your own time, and go shopping or go and play golf, whatever it might be, to make you feel better, or whether it could be a bit more long term, so some respite in a care home. Like it says here, you wouldn't expect to have no annual leave from your job, so why should you expect to have no kind of respite for caring for someone? It's really important to ensure that you do schedule in those times.
Yeah, and I guess it like the sooner you start doing that, the more comfortable it becomes between you and that loved one or that person you've been caring for, doesn't it? Like it's harder when you just suddenly go like, I need a break out of nowhere, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it makes it, I guess, more manageable when you kind of come back from those breaks. It's kind of
Mm.
like a reset. And we always say, I always say to families that the hardest step is the first one of having those initial conversations and kind of not admitting, but kind of saying, actually, I do need some support and I do need some extra help. That's always the hardest part. So kind of once you do that, it does get easier.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is the avoidant caregiver. So caregivers who try to minimize or ignore the emotional and physical toll of their role, without sounding too rhymey. Like again, this is quite a common caregiver persona. Katie, how would you talk to an avoidant caregiver?
I would say, open up. It's really, really tough. Like I just said, those first initial conversations are the hardest, but it's kind of like breaking that shell. And once you do it, it's such a release. And there's kind of care support out there in terms of hotlines and helplines for carers. So if you don't necessarily want to talk to someone that if that's kind of uncomfortable for you, which is completely understandable, there are people who are kind of away from that situation and removed that you can chat to and will have kind of practical and emotional support that they can offer you to help you to open up and kind of accept some help.
Yeah, so it's either finding that person in your personal life or even someone externally that you can just, talk to and talk about the caregiving role that you're providing.
Absolutely. And that's kind of one of the things that I guess we do here at Senior Care by Lottie is kind of being one of those external people. You can chat to us about anything and everything. And even if you don't necessarily need any practical advice at the time, we're here to kind of lend a listening ear and be there to help emotionally as well.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And the final one we're going to talk about today is the proud caregiver. So, caregivers who refuse to ask for help, believing they should manage everything on their own. Uh, I know people like this that aren't necessarily caregivers, the sort of the proudness of people, they refuse to ask for help and things like that. And you go, why should I ask for help? I'm pretty sure I can deal with it on my own. Yeah, this is again a very common one, but just someone that needs as much help. So, Katie, what would you suggest to those?
Yeah, we always say it's not kind of a weakness asking for help. Everyone needs help at some point in their life. And it's necessary to be able to let you be a good caregiver, is that, you know, you will need support at some time, at some points, and that's absolutely fine. We come across it a lot. I've spoken to many families where, maybe mum or dad needs support, but the the wife or the husband is kind of very proud and feels like they should be the one to care for their loved one, which is completely understandable, but you can't expect to do it all yourself. So I think kind of, yeah, framing it as, I'm happy to do as much as I possibly can, but I will need support at some point. And also kind of giving, say in that scenario with, a husband and wife, giving them, enough time to be to make all the decisions themselves, and really including them in any decision that you make can make it a bit easier for them. It doesn't feel like someone's kind of coming in and taking over. Just, yeah, including all kind of the family members and everyone in decisions makes it easier.
Yeah, what's that phrase? A problem shared is a problem halved. Is that it?
I think that's the right way
I think
around.
that's it. I might have butchered that completely, but it does have that type of thing to it. You can only be your best type of caregiver if you are using every source available to you, to either relax or to unload and open up, whatever it is. Really, really important. So that's a bit about recognizing carers in our lives. Maybe you notice a bit of that in people you know. Perhaps that there's shades of some of that in yourself. I don't know, but it's really important to sort of like talk to that and talk a bit about it. But how do we help? How do we help on this journey? So the care concierge service that we run through Seniorcare, that Katie is an excellent exponent of, is understanding, finding, and funding care. That's something we're doing daily with employees across the UK. Understanding there's a lot of jargon to cut through. I mean, when it even comes to funding care, the amount of acronyms and different types of forms and things you have to fill out, different names, titles, whatever. It's laced with jargon, and that's something we're here to help with. We try to break down what these complicated terms mean and just try and give it to you in a more digestible format. Finding care is obviously a really important part of the service, because when you suddenly need to try and find care for a loved one, it can be very daunting. It can be incredibly isolating. And we're here to step in and make that journey a lot easier. So when you don't want to have to always take off work, you don't want to always have to, you know, um, have to talk to people um, that aren't in the world of care. You want to be able to just do it all yourself, like the proud caregiver. But that's what we're here to do. We're here to we're sort of here to help with that as much as possible. And then funding, um, that's again a huge part of what we do. Funding is really complicated. Care is expensive, like I touched upon, and we're here to help you, find the right access to key benefits that can save you hundreds of pounds a week. That's something because we're just determined to do, because whilst we can't change the exact expense of care, we want to help you save as much money as possible on that journey and find care that you're ultimately happy with. And emotional support, Katie, how important would you say that is? I'd say that's probably the most important part.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, yeah, most important, most likely. It's such a hard thing, um, sort of caring for someone and also kind of taking that next step of realizing that a loved one needs care. So I think the emotional support is kind of next to none. We're here to listen to any kind of worries or issues or anything that's on your mind, even if, like I said earlier, you just want to call us and kind of chat. You don't want any practical advice at the moment. We're here to kind of be a listening ear and be someone that you can lean on, and offer kind of, we can offer more practical advice in terms of local support groups and helplines and people that you can chat to, more than just us. But we're here to help, and lend a listening ear.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed that someone raised their hand in the group. I don't know if they want to come on and chat, but um, I'm just going to click allow to talk. I'm not sure if you did that on purpose, but let's see what happens. So I've just unmuted you. I don't know if you want to ask a question or if you want to come in. If not, that's fine. You can always ask a question in the Q&A bar if you want. And yeah, we can always take your question for there if you have something specifically about this. Anyway, we'll continue for now. we'll also talk about care homes and home care, Katie, because there's a lot more to that, that sort of different sect of the world, isn't there? When people think of care, they usually think of care homes, but there's also the other side of care, isn't there? It'd be great to like hear about the different types of care homes and home care and the comparisons between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when it comes to kind of care homes, we can support with a wide range of different types of care. So, residential nursing, dementia, and also nursing dementia care. You know, th they can be care homes can be useful for many different reasons. That kind of moves on to sort of the duration, so it could be if your loved one wants to move into a care home permanently. We're here to support you find the right care home for them, support with that whole process. But also, if you find that, you're caring for someone and you need that little bit of respite, we're here to help you kind of find that as well. If it's for a week or two, if you're going on holiday, whatever it might be, we're kind of here to help with that whole process as well. Um, in terms of kind of fees for care homes, these can vary, a lot depending on the location, care type, and even the room that someone chooses within a home. The average price for residential care is £1,160 per week, and nursing is £1,410 per week. But again, these vary very a lot depending on location and, like I said, care type and room. So yeah, care homes can be a really suitable environment for someone. Again, we take a very holistic approach here at Seniorcare by Lottie, and we will kind of look at everyone's individual situation and decide what might be best suited for them. And obviously, it's your decision at the end of the day. We're always going to support you on what you think is best for your family. And then home care. So home care is another great option. I think I mentioned earlier on in the webinar that I used to be a home carer myself and absolutely loved it. So I can see how it's such a great sort of great support out there and really helpful to families. So there are kind of three different types of home care support. So this is domiciliary, which is also known as kind of visiting and hourly care. So that's kind of someone popping in maybe a few times a day, checking in on mum or dad, helping them with meals, whatever it might be. You've got living care, so that's someone moving in with your loved one. They often, well, they will need to have their own room within the home. There's kind of other set boundaries that the providers will put in place. And then you have overnight care. So this could be sleeping or waking. So depending on the support that your loved one needs. Sleeping is, someone coming in and they can be woken up twice throughout the night by your loved one. And then waking is if they need support kind of throughout the night. And, if they're likely to wake the carer up more than two times, then it would be a waking night. Again, duration is very similar to kind of care homes, so it can be ongoing. So that's kind of the equivalent to your permanent care. So someone kind of supporting your loved one for the foreseeable. And then you also have fixed term. So this could be, it's also known as convalescence or reablement care. And this could be, say, if your loved ones maybe had a fall, they've been in hospital, and they just need a bit of extra support at home whilst they're kind of getting back on their feet. If they've had an illness, I help a lot of families who their loved ones are maybe having a knee replacement or a hip replacement, and they just need a bit of extra TLC, in the weeks after. And then lastly, kind of pricing. So again, it can vary a lot, but it typically costs £25 per hour, again, depending on care needs, depending on location, and that's yeah, for more domiciliary care. The live-in and the overnight is a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say there's a lot of options out there. Like even just on that one slide, we're covering a lot of bases. So you don't have to know exactly what the right care is going to be for you or your loved one. It's really difficult to determine immediately, but that's exactly what we're here to help find that right thing that suits your life, your lifestyle, your work, and your loved one ultimately. So definitely get in contact if you want a bit more insight into what might be the best kind of care. These are some common care statements that Katie probably hears a lot, like in her day to day. And perhaps these are things you thought or said before. But the first one is, my parents are reluctant to accept support, but I can tell they're struggling. Katie, talk a bit about this one and what you'd probably recommend to those people.
Yeah, so this is very common. It could be that um, you're looking at maybe a care home or home care. This could be relevant for. Whenever someone kind of comes to me with this problem, I always say, it's baby steps. So whether that be you're wanting some home care, you could kind of introduce someone just for maybe an hour or so a week, and they can just start with domestic chores, or help around the house, or even just companionship to get your loved one used to having someone in their home, and chatting with someone. And once they build that relationship, they can then support with more substantial care, like personal care, taking them to appointments, etc. And it's kind of the same with care homes. We always say respite is such a good way of kind of testing the waters when it comes to a care home. Your loved one can go for a week or a couple of weeks and just see how they get on, have a bit of TLC. More often they're not, they absolutely love it. But of course, respite's also a great way of testing out a few care homes. If there's a few on your radar and you're not sure which one would be best suited for your loved one, it's another great way to kind of dip your toe in the water.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. I love that. Um, the second one is, mum's in hospital after a fall, and I'm nervous about her returning to home on her own, which again must be quite a common
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Yeah.
thing.
So unfortunately, falls are more and more common as you kind of get older. And kind of a great way for someone to get support after this would be, home care. It could be, like I say, the domiciliary care, someone coming in, even just in the morning to help mum get out of bed if she's, had a fall and she's struggling a bit with mobility, ensuring that she's got, a meal out for lunchtime, and then kind of coming again in the evening to make sure she's all ready for bed. But again, if you kind of are nervous about mum in those interim periods, then maybe some respite care would be more suitable because she's got round the clock support. But this is a very common kind of situation that happens.
Yeah, so nothing unusual about thinking
No,
that
no.
at all. The third one is, my siblings and I are trying to look after dad, but it's a lot to juggle.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
I think, a big part of Senior Care by Lottie is, the liaison with different family members. We're more than happy to chat with you, your siblings, you know, whoever actually needs the care. I've hopped on a call before with 6 family members, kind of talking about what it is that, your loved one needs support with. And I think it's really important to kind of listen to everyone's perspective, and kind of ensure that everyone's getting listened to, and is able to kind of provide what, or sort of tell you what they would like for their loved one. And that's something that we really kind of believe in here at Senior Care by Lottie, is ensuring that everyone's listened to, not just necessarily the individuals that's come to us. We want to make sure that everyone's happy and everyone feels as if they're being heard.
yeah. I mean, me and my siblings don't agree on most things. So a large part of what you do, Katie, is probably that sort of like family dynamics, navigating that with like a group of like siblings or a family itself,
Mm.
um, because it can be hard to agree on it, on the right thing to
Absolutely,
do.
absolutely. Especially something so emotional as kind of caregiving. You know, it's hard at the best of times, but when it is, your loved one, and the emotions are there, it makes it 10 times more kind of tense at times. So I think kind of just helping to kind of navigate those conversations and being kind of like a um impartial party is really helpful.
Nice. And the last one, what happens when my uncle's money starts to run out, which is a common fear when you think about care. What happens when their money is depleting, and what do you do, and things like that? Well, on the following slides, we'll talk a bit about private funding versus local authority. If your uncle has, say, more than £23,250 in savings, they're classed as a private funder. But of course, care over time, your money can run out. Care costs a lot of money, and if you dip below that threshold, let's say in England, £23,250, then you are eligible for local authority funding. And knowing where that threshold is and knowing what you're entitled to is particularly difficult. And funnily enough, and awkwardly, in every single country in the UK does it slightly differently, which is not very helpful. Of course. Of course, they're bound to do that, something really complicated and difficult. But if you are unsure about, funding and what you're entitled to or what your family member might be entitled to, then, that's what we're here to sort of guide you through as well. Because again, those numbers and those thresholds are just numbers and thresholds until you make sense of it and until you talk to Katie or one of the team about, how we can save a bit of money and still maintain like a good quality of care at the same time. And government benefits, of course, talking a bit more about funding. This is a shocking statistic that I say far too often, but £3.5 billion of benefits go unclaimed every year in England and Wales. That's an insane amount of money that's just left on the table. That is, and we just want to make sure that's zero. We want to make sure that every single family is accessing all the benefits they're entitled to, so that's just not going to waste. And a lot of these are just because, Katie, that people just don't know about them, or they're just heinously complicated, or which ones would you pick out here as really important for people to think about when it comes to care?
I mean, attendance allowance is a great one that a lot of people don't know about, and it's non-means tested. So this could be for anyone regardless of income. If you're a private funder, you still are eligible for attendance allowance. And it's, yeah, a great, although it's not loads, every little bit helps. And when it comes to, say, the likes of home care support, the lower amount for attendance allowance is about £73 per week, and that could cover a good chunk of the fees for your home care. And then I guess as well, kind of the carers allowance and the carers credit, just speaking, about being a carer. If you're spending at least 35 hours per week caring for someone, you could be eligible for carers allowance, or carers credit if it's just over 20 hours per week. But I guess all of these benefits kind of are just as important as one another, because it could be, a big difference in someone's life. And even, the blue badge, it can make such a difference for someone's day to day if they're popping into town, if they're going out, just having that badge enabling them to just live a better quality of life. These are all really great benefits for people to know about, and often you don't think about them.
Yeah, and of course there's others as well, like continuing healthcare through the NHS. Sometimes the NHS will pay for all or part of your loved one's care. So again, there's loads of different types that are probably hidden behind a piece of jargon or an assessment form and things like that, and they can seem really daunting. Like, how many people, almost, I've been on these webinars before where people go, I wanted to do so and so assessment, but then it was 35 pages long and I couldn't do it. Like, and I completely get that. It's an arduous task. So any way in which we can help fill those forms out or help you through it, that's exactly what we want to do as well. It's really important to us. Um, um, I've just got a question from Anonymous. Carers allowance if they live with you due to illness, etc., but you work full time, does that mean allowance is not relevant? Odd one, because they live with you full time. And I think carers allowance, I don't know, Katie, what kind of, it's obvious, it's full of like niches, what it applies to and things like that. But what would you say?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of kind of I guess, like you say, niches when it comes to carers allowance. I believe with that question, carers allowance if they live with you but you work full time, does that mean that allowances? I think that you would still be eligible, but with something like that, I think it's best to possibly contact us afterwards, just so we can get a bit more of an understanding of the dynamics, if that makes sense. And then kind of have a look into it a bit more for you, just because I don't want to give you an answer that's not right.
No, of course, and I think that's the thing. Once we learn a bit more about the care requirements and the care needs and exactly what you're providing day to day, then we have a bit more like information about how we can help. And it might not be carers allowance specifically; it might be something else
Yeah, yeah.
that you're not quite accessing. But thanks for the question, really appreciate it. And do just get in contact with us. And we'll be happy to help. How do we help? This is Vivian. I love Vivian. She's amazing. I had a chat with her about her care, and yeah, she said some wonderful things about the service.
The easiest way to put it is it's given me my life back and my future back as well. I can go to the theatre and not be thinking, should I be here? What about mum? You know, it's that whole thing that's what's given me, you know, the biggest thing I've got back is being a daughter and having my life back.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good. I think any way in which like yeah, and so satisfying to hear that when someone says that to you because you're like, oh, the service is doing something where that it's meant to. It is giving you time back. It's giving you that agency to have that relationship back with your loved one. And yeah, any way in which we can do that for anyone on the call or within your organization or within your orbit is really important to us. So yeah, like we said to that question, do get in touch if you do have a question. You've obviously met Katie today, but the entire Care Expert team is incredible. You can just give us a call. It's as easy as that. If you do have a question, like I said before, there's no question too big or too small. It can be perspective, it can be future thought, but then, you know, it could also be like, I just need to sense check something. It can be like that. So do just give us a call. If you prefer to change the time, you can leave your details and we'll get in contact with you. And if you scan that QR code, you can do just that, which is really great. And we'll be more than happy to contact you as soon as possible when it suits you a bit better. But yeah, of course, you can contact us, and we'll be happy to help with anything. And that's kind of it. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We hope it's been informative. We'll hope that it's sort of cleared a few things in your head, and we hope that maybe it's helped you recognize some carers in your life, caregivers. We hope that it's highlighted some of the challenges, maybe as an employer, that how difficult it can be. And also just caregivers are amazing. I know Katie talks to caregivers every day and they are doing incredible things, balancing, juggling work and life and care. So yeah, hopefully it's provided a bit of that as well. I don't know if anyone has any other questions about caregiving, about carers. You can ask it now. But then if not, you can always contact us on the slide here. You can always ask us those questions, and we'd be more than happy to help. And this has been recorded, so we can also send this back to you to watch in your own time if you would like that as well. But thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. It's always amazing to get like Katie on here and talk about her caregiving role and you know what she did as home carer and now as a care expert. It's really important to us to have that expertise. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.